Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you are currently on the first episode as we are in a terrible time right now here in this pandemic. And right now you're talking to head football coach Jake Nulph. Jake, I really appreciate you taking the time and being here with us today.
Hey, listen, I appreciate and I'm honored to be on the first podcast here in this first episode. So, again, it means a lot to me that you think of me that way. So thank you.
Appreciate it. So, Jake, we're in a troubling time, as I said. How have you and your family been doing during this pandemic?
As good as you can be. It's an unprecedented time that no one has ever gone through before, at least in our lifetimes. So, my wife she's a type A. She likes everything planned to the detail. I'm talking hours and seconds, okay? That's gone completely out the window. So for her, it's been interesting. We've basically looked at things from not just a family standpoint, but professionally in work as well. As you usually operate sometimes on month calendars to where crinkle that up and throw it away. We're on day-to-day operations. And for me, I like that anyway. I've always been in the moment, in the now. What's important is currently. So I've adjusted pretty well. My wife is on board there. If you've ever seen Friends, she's Monica from Friends. That's my wife in a nutshell. And, we have 2 young children. My son JJ's 2 and my daughter Jillian is 1. They don't understand what's going on yet, so from that standpoint, I guess it's a positive. You always I always try to be positive in the situation and look at, okay, let's go big picture now for a second. Yes, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Yes, it is affecting all of us. The one thing that in our profession, especially in athletics and in coaching, is time. And I can tell you this, with being in the pandemic, the one thing I'm very thankful for is the time that I've had with my family. My children are very young, and I'll never get that back. So being around these last couple months in quarantine and working from home has been a blessing for me, because I said my son's only going to be 2 one time. My daughter's only going to be 1. And, getting to experience some things that I normally wouldn't get to do has been really awesome.
That was the next thing I was actually going to ask you is, during being quarantined for so long, and I know our governors have put a hold on us actually going out and doing stuff. I was going to say spending time with your kids has definitely got to be a great moment that you sometimes don't get to get during the season and even during like the recruiting process sometimes.
Yeah, you're right about that. So that time and the quality time that it's been has been outstanding. I mean, their development at that age they're sponges. They soak up everything. And my son and my daughter have a lot of personality, and I wonder who they get that from. So it's been really awesome to see them grow and develop. And, just like you said, it's that family time where it's an opportunity for my wife to have these moments with our children and live in the now and just focus on the love and the attention and raising them the right way. It's been awesome.
I'm glad to see you guys are doing well, and you're definitely taking your time. So getting over to the football aspect, since got hired as a new head coach last semester, I know your first season really not going the way you wanted to because of this whole thing. How have you yourself, and also how have you kept your coaches focused, just getting ready for the possible season that could possibly happen?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm not sure when this is going to air, but today is September 3rd, which is when the Jake Nulph and his staff is supposed to start and kick off tonight against Grand Valley State. So
exactly right.
On my commute this morning, driving up here to the borough, I've had some time to reflect and think about that. And I can tell you this. I've never been a person that's been woe is me. And we're certainly not sitting here feeling sorry for ourselves. We're going to play the hand that we were dealt, and we're going to make the most of the situation. And that's my staff included. I've been fortunate that I was able to hire some guys that I've worked with in the past and have a very close relationship with, not just from football, but from a personal standpoint as well.
Mhm.
From Rich DeMeo, the offensive coordinator, I played with Rich in college, and we've coached together at Robert Morris and then 4 years at Westminster. Tony Papley, my defensive coordinator, I had an opportunity to get to know when I was working camps at Duquesne when he was coaching down there, and then I had an opportunity to coach with him at Duquesne and get to know him personally. Travis Tisleritz is a guy that's our recruiting coordinator, offensive line coach that I had a relationship with from his mentor, and then working camps at Youngstown State. Keith Willis is maybe the most popular hire I've had just based on his background playing professionally with
Right.
the Steelers and the Bills. But that was a relationship that through a mutual friend of ours, Mike Miller, made the connection, and Keith and I hit it off. And, he must see something in me that he wanted to come out of retirement basically and come work here.
Right.
It's been a blessing, and some of the other new guys, I just hired Jason Nixon
Mhm.
as our assistant special teams defensive back coach.
Mhm.
He's got a PSAC background. He's from Erie. Met him through Coach Papley. I was able to keep Coach Benefield Shannon,
Mhm.
who was only here since last July. We hit it off. He's doing a great job. He's a young guy that, we've taken under our shoulder and our wing here and trying to mentor. And
Mhm.
it's been really positive. From that standpoint, I've gotten a lot of questions, Trey. Is like, now you're the head football coach. What's the best thing? Why do you, all these different scenarios and what I like about the job, et cetera. But really for me, getting an opportunity to work with people
Mhm.
that I can trust, that have the same vision that I do, that it's one voice.
Mhm.
And our kids are starting to see that. Now, granted, it's through Zoom,
Mhm. Right.
because
Right.
we're not face-to-face and it's a virtual world. But that's been awesome. I'm very fortunate, and
Mhm.
I've worked for a lot of great head football coaches. I played collegiately
Mhm.
for Joe Walton, who was
Okay.
the head coach of the New York Jets in the 1980s and had
Mhm.
30 some years of NFL experience. And then my defensive coordinator in college, Coach Bad Rad Dan Radakovich. Rad, we're thinking about you. He passed away here in February. I was able to be mentored by those guys as a
Mhm.
young college player.
Mhm.
And then from working for them at Robert Morris, and then if you follow the track of my coaching career, all the way from, St. Francis with Chris Valerial, certainly at Westminster with Scott Benzel, who was my position coach in college,
Mhm.
and then Jerry Schmidt at Duquesne and Paul Tortorella at IUP. I've learned a lot from those guys. And
Mhm.
the one constant that every single one of those guys told me when preparing for this process at Edinboro was make sure you surround yourself with good people.
Mhm.
Because if you hire good people, and not football's football, but I'm just talking about good people,
Right. Right.
you're going to set yourself up for a lot of success. And those guys that I'm talking about have had a lot of success doing what they're doing. So
Mhm.
I always take notes. I'm always learning. And for
Mhm.
me, when I got hired at Edinboro, I was 36.
Mhm.
I'm 37 now, and I'm a relatively young guy. There's no handbook
Yeah.
for a pandemic. Okay. There's no coaching manual that says, okay, Jake, here you go. This is how you're going to operate in a global pandemic.
Right.
There just isn't.
Mhm.
So that day to day that I'm talking about,
Mhm.
that's how we do it. Because
Yeah.
my staff, just the Edinboro program summer
Mhm.
was, okay, guys, here's what we're doing in June. Here's what we're doing in July. We're going to get back in August. And you can take all those and throw them out the window. Like
Right. Right.
they're non-existent because it was changing and it was evolving, and it still is.
Yeah.
I've always been a guy that's learned as far as baptism under fire. Get
Mhm.
thrown into the mix and it's sink or swim.
Right. Right.
So that's really the mentality that we've been approaching, and our guys are handling it very well. Credit to them.
Mhm.
And really, I mean that. Credit to our football team
Mhm.
because we're in it with them.
Yeah.
We go from highs and lows and peaks and valleys and, just trying to make them understand, look,
Mhm.
do this emotionally.
Yeah.
If you can be consistent and not go through peaks and valleys
Mhm.
and be a professional, you're going to go and you're going to have a lot of success. So that's kind of how we've been approaching it from my staff in
Mhm.
our football team during the 2020 COVID pandemic.
Yeah, I got to admit the hirings that you've definitely brought in, you definitely, like you said, surrounded yourself with great people, and they all definitely have the football knowledge. And I hope you're going to have some very good success here as you continue your coaching career. And how through this whole process, I know you're trying to bring in new recruits and you're trying to bring in some transfers. How has that recruiting process been, and how has it changed? Since we've been dealing with COVID-19.
It's changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
Just from an NCAA standpoint, to their credit, they've been able to adjust, and they've been very student athlete friendly, which is ultimately the most important priority, is their health and safety.
Mm-hmm.
The recruiting's been tough, but adapt and overcome.
Right.
So, we've been meeting with families via Zoom, the constant communication through phone contact, those kind of things have been normal, but the physical get up here and see everything has certainly been limited,
Mm-hmm.
and rightfully so. But the number one lifeline of any good football program collegiately is recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our priority, and it's always going to be, because
Mm-hmm.
we've got to be able to bring guys in here that are good people. And I always use the analogy, I'm looking for high production and low maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that. You're a guy.
Mm-hmm.
At least I can say this, Trey. When I got hired, I was fortunate enough to see you play basketball a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard about how good of a football player you were. But you were fun to watch, so you were probably the same way. You're a high production guy with very low maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an interesting situation just from an Edinboro standpoint, because I have not, in my staff, we have not had the ability to see one person practice.
Right.
From the guys on the roster
Mm-hmm.
to the freshmen and transfers that are currently with us right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's on even playing field. So if I'm a kid and I'm a student athlete that's looking for a home,
Mm-hmm.
I like our situation.
Yeah.
I like our staff. I like the energy we bring. I like our background.
Mm-hmm.
I think Edinboro has a lot to offer from an academic standpoint and a geographical location, being that we're, Buffalo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh,
Mm-hmm.
within under 2 hours of all of those places.
Mm-hmm.
It's an intriguing thing, because ultimately I want to go somewhere where I'm going to have a chance to compete.
Right.
And I want to know what kind of legacy I'm going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no better place.
Right.
Everybody's starting from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's on the same playing field, and it's a very healthy, competitive environment.
Yeah.
So, those are the things we're talking to the kids about, and
Mm-hmm.
credit to my staff. They've done a great job, and we've been able to bring in some transfers and a lot of these young guys that
Mm-hmm.
I think are going to surprise a lot of people in the PSAC.
Oh, that's good to hear. And that was another thing. How have you guys been able to keep your veteran players just, up to date on things, and just keep them in shape and be able to prepare for this coming season? But also, how do you keep your freshmen and your transfers up as well? Because like you said, the college, or from the high school to the college transfer, is a big difference. And like you said, you haven't been able to see any of these freshmen or transfers play yet. How do you keep them just in the mood to be able to work out during this pandemic and stay in shape? Because come springtime, once you're allowed to practice, I know pads are coming on as soon as you're ready to go, and I hope these kids are ready to hit.
Football is a great game for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and to me, it's always, and you're around me enough, you hear me talk, but it's bigger than football.
Right.
Our program is bigger than football. We're trying to build men.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to make people better husbands, better fathers, so
Mm-hmm.
that they're functioning members of society.
Yep.
And they love this place so much that they want to send their kids here.
Mm-hmm.
That's my vision. That's what we're trying to build.
Mm-hmm.
But the challenge of keeping these guys motivated
Mm-hmm.
through Zoom, everybody in the country is going through it. And,
Right.
I'm fortunate enough that I've developed a lot of quality relationships in this coaching profession.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking all the way from Power 5, FBS, all the way down to Division 3 and everywhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk and we share ideas, because
Mm-hmm.
we're all in the same boat.
Right.
If
Right.
we can take an idea from somebody and spin it that it's more beneficial for our programs and we share ideas. That's been really cool, is the ability to just pick up a phone and call guys and say, hey, what are you doing?
Right.
Everyone's been really, really gracious in that aspect. So I know that 18 to 22-year-olds' attention spans are pretty similar. And you're a young guy.
Right.
I'm a relatively young guy. You got to keep them entertained.
You're right.
And if you're trying to run an hour to 2-hour marathon sessions via Zoom, I don't care who you are. Your mind's going to drift. So we've been trying to be short, sweet, concise, to the point, and interesting, right? All of those things bottle up into one, and those have been our meetings. So we've been trying to make sure that we, from a programming standpoint, are holding these guys accountable at least 4 days a week.
Right.
Okay. And we're trying to make sure that the message is on point, and we don't want to do anything longer than a half hour to 45 minutes. So the dialogue and the things that we're presenting to them are new, because obviously we're going to be a completely different football team from a scheme standpoint. I think, that's goes without saying. So Coach DeMeo is installing his offense. Coach Papley's installing his defense. Myself and Coach Nixon are installing the special teams. And so from that, the format content, I think, has got our upperclassmen excited because it's new. And they're hearing the same message that our new guys are hearing. So, we've adapted to a platoon system, which was something that we did at St. Francis and Westminster and everywhere else I've been. And it was actually Coach Tisleritz's idea. And I was like, yeah, we've done that before. Let's run with it. Where we've got guys that drafted teams and they're the leaders of their program. So not only are we as coaches holding them accountable, them as platoon leaders are holding their squad accountable. And ultimately, Trey, we're going to compete.
Right.
And everything we do, I want competitive guys, because that's just the nature of what we're doing. And I want guys that love to win and hate to lose.
Yeah.
So we've mixed some things up that way to make it interesting, and I know our guys are running with it, and this platoon leadership's done a great job. We just got to continue to go forward. We're in week 3 here of our classes and that kind of format. So it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, that's good to hear. And, you saying, being a former player and stuff like that, building relationships is definitely a big key as a new head coach. I know a lot of veteran guys have had, a different head coach before, and, they had a relationship with them as well. It's also sometimes hard to build a new relationship with a new coach because you're so used to an old system.
Right.
And, my last question for you, Coach, I don't want to waste too much of your time. When an upcoming season does come, what's the goal for a Coach Nulph football team?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I want people, and I mean by people, our opponents, to be able to look at the schedule and see Edinboro on it and go, oh, no. We got to play those guys. And then we got to play them at Edinboro, which we all know. Sunshine and rainbows here 24/7. It doesn't snow. It's beautiful. We're like in Miami, right?
Right.
No, it's not. It's a tough place here weather-wise. Tough. Physical, get after you football is what we're going to play. I hope they adopt to my personality. Physical football teams win championships. And you can leave that open to interpretation. There's a lot of ways to be physical. But tough, particularly in football, isn't just necessarily the physical ability. It's also mental. So we've got to have the ability to be mentally tough, but we've got to be smart. Ultimately, I don't want us to ever beat ourselves. If somebody is going to beat Edinboro, I want them to beat us, and I don't want us to beat ourselves. If somebody can come in here, line up, and play us, and they beat us, well, hats off to them. And that's football, because they practice and they do the same things that we're doing.
Right.
Discipline is something that I've always myself. I think I'm a pretty disciplined guy from a regiment standpoint, from the things that I do, and I know that's probably been an issue here in the past, or at least of what I heard, which is why I was brought in. And we've got to make sure that we're just doing all of the right things from a discipline standpoint. We can't beat ourselves in penalties. We've got to be extremely smart, and we got to make sure that we're all on the same page. And it's funny, and you'll appreciate this analogy, and I don't even know who you like from a professional football standpoint, but sometimes the team with the best talent doesn't always win.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to look at the football team for the last 20 years that's been pretty consistent, it's the New England Patriots.
Yep.
Have they been their greatest talent? No.
Yep.
But they play the best together as a football team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're trying to build here, is that camaraderie, that closeness. Now, is Zoom a challenge? Heck yeah, but we've got to figure out ways that we can make this team come together as one and
Mm-hmm.
play as one football team.
Right.
That's really my vision for the program is,
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take time. Winning is a process. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
Yep.
But we're going to continue to do things the right way. We're going to continue to coach our tails off. We're going to keep holding guys accountable to the standard that's expected of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to build.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I can tell you this, hopefully when teams in the spring come up and see us play, or anybody from a spectator, alumni, you name it, I want them to go, wow,
Right.
that football team's come a long way.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play hard. I want to leave everything out on the field.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to practice smart and fast, but when our guys show up to play a football game, I want them to have juice.
Mm-hmm.
I want the energy to be there. I like guys, and I've said this before, that are lightning rods.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is people like being around them.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you get in front of a lightning rod or you're around somebody that brings energy or juice, it's contagious.
Right.
That's what I want to build here. I'm not looking for energy vampires.
Yeah.
Energy vampires generally don't correlate well in football because those guys end up being a locker room cancer, and you've got to kind of get rid of that. So,
right.
that's really my vision of this program. And, we've got to build it.
Yeah.
And that's a day-by-day thing, and we'll continue to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The best part is always when I step into this Zoom format and get an opportunity to see the 100 guys looking back at me.
Yeah.
Because to me, that half hour to 45 minutes is awesome.
Right.
Just because, I was on campus for 6 weeks and then we got shut down. Kids went on spring break, and I haven't seen a lot of these guys since the first week of March. So, just to log on and we kind of keep it lighthearted to start before we get rolling and kind of crack jokes, but that's a lot of fun. And I know there's, take a look at Coach Papley and Coach Willis and Coach Nixon, some of these newer guys that I was able to hire. They haven't even met our kids in person yet.
Yeah.
So imagine the challenge of that. Then you talk about the relationship building.
Mm-hmm.
It's been like this.
Yeah.
But again, it's a challenge. It's an obstacle. And credit to our guys on our football team. They've done a great job in adapting to that, and the coaching staff as well. So, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to continue to get after it and, go from there. Day-by-day operation, Trey.
Right. Well, Coach, I definitely see you have your team going in the right direction. You definitely have a big plan for them as, we kind of get through this pandemic and you continue into the spring semester. But I just want to say thank you for taking the time, and appreciate you being on the first podcast here for us. So thank you, and I wish you the best of luck this upcoming year.
Thanks, Trey. I really appreciate it. And again, I'm honored that you have me on the first podcast. So go Burrow.
Sounds good. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks. Take care, Trey.
Yep.